Sunday, October 6th. It is the morning, Florida and Georgia. I am putting you on watch for the next storm. This is going to be Hurricane Milton. There's not a ton we can talk about right now, but please remember that this is just called the cone of uncertainty, and this is where we think the eye may pass. This is not an impact thing whatsoever. Impacts always extend beyond the cone of uncertainty. Having said that, Milton is expected to be a fairly small storm compared to most, like the other one that we're not going to talk about, which was a very large storm. This storm is going to be much smaller, and that comes with a whole bunch of different impacts. Also, the forecast for this one is pretty complex, so let's talk about what we know and what I feel like I can tell you with some confidence now. This paragraph here, right here from the National Hurricane Center, is an interesting one. I'll take you through it step by step. One, it says it's a small storm, just a smaller radius than other hurricanes that we've seen, so it has the ability to change strength very quickly. Second, while those ocean temperatures are super warm and incredibly favorable for rapid intensification, it's also entering a very high shear environment and a very dry environment. Hurricanes don't like either of those things, but it may overcome. There's also a front of the northern Gulf of Mexico that may cause this to transition into an extratropical storm, which means it's technically not a hurricane anymore. Though don't forget, Sandy was an extratropical storm. It just means it's not being as fueled off of the warm waters as it would be otherwise, but it still can be very dangerous. Because of this, intensity forecasts are literally all over the map. See that little M up there, though? National Hurricane Center does have confidence that it's going to make major hurricane status, which is category 3 or greater. Also totally worth mentioning, this is not going to go loop-de-loop up and around. The upper air dynamics of what's happening up here through the rest of the United States do not support that. That's what happened with that storm last time. It just totally deflected it that way, and that's what happened. That is not going to be happening this time. It's going to be passing to the east, giving these eastern coast states a little bit of an interesting time. And this is why the cone of uncertainty is so wide, because these are all the different forecast models and where they're talking about where this can impact. So literally anywhere from the Big Bend down to the Keys could potentially take a direct hit. Because of that, the entire west coast of Florida, the entire Gulf Coast needs to just be put on watch right now, especially if you're still dealing from what happened with Helene, which had a very, very broad swath. Even though that I missed you by 100 miles, a lot of you still peaked and reached or went over your record storm surge. As of right now, models feel pretty good about Tampa being the location, but please remember the front right quadrant of a storm. If Tampa is where the eye makes landfall, you're going to have severe storm type of conditions. This is where the highest wind speeds are, the highest storm surge, all here to the east of that. So just realize that even if it's Tampa, the entire southern part of the Gulf Coast here needs to be careful. The second area of impact is going to be the North Atlantic coast of Florida, because as this moves across Florida and it rotates clockwise, once you get the center of rotation on this side, it is pushing once again those strong winds and especially the storm surge through this location. So the biggest concerns for flooding, I know this seems counterintuitive, are going to be from Tampa south to the Keys and from Melbourne north to Jacksonville. That's assuming a landfall location of, say, Tampa. If it ends up being further north, realize everything I said shifts north. If it ends up being further south, everything I said shifts south. Timing of it making landfall and impact is going to be sometime on Wednesday, possibly midday Wednesday. This is the 1 a.m. Thursday little button. This is the 1 a.m. Wednesday. So if this is going to be making landfall, I'm imagining that it's going to probably be sometime right around Wednesday afternoon. This does give you 3 days from right now to prepare, but like I said, I know there's a lot of places, especially up here just south of the Big Bend, north of Tampa. You guys are already reeling, and I'm really sorry about this. As the storm gets closer, we can go to water.noaa.gov or water.weather.gov and look at where we are forecasting high storm surge. This is the exact thing we did for the last storm. This is rainfall potential. It's pretty high. Here's the scale. So that bright pink we're seeing just off the coast here is going to be about 20 inches. So we'll see what happens. But keep in mind, once again, it's, the biggest impacts are going to be on this side and this side if landfall goes basically right across this line here. By Tuesday evening, most of Gulf Coast Florida will start feeling these tropical storm force winds. That's 39 miles per hour or greater. And this is the entire area that can expect tropical storm force winds. Now, as we start getting to these greens, these are much lower percentages. Anything that's in the green is 10, 20, 30% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds. But just know that it's there. Once again, even though this is a small storm, this is much smaller than the last one. I want you to just understand those areas of impact. So if you're in a yellow or darker, I would absolutely, without a question, expect tropical storm force winds. Still a lot of questions about this forecast, but we're going to keep an eye on it. We still do have 3 days. As there's more information that I can share with you, things that are going to be helpful, potential impacts, I will absolutely be posting them here. Please avoid any meteorologists, people who do not know meteorology, and people who are just going to try to scare you for no reason.